You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings, but now I shine with your reflection on.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inclusion Unscripted. My name is Margaret Spence, and today we are going to talk about regrets. What will you regret if you look back a year from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now? What will you regret? My dad turned 94 on March the 1st. And when he turned 94, I said to myself, 90 looks different than 91, looks different than 92, looks totally different than 93, and 94 looks almost different. But I asked him, what do you regret looking back? Looking back on your 94 years of life, what do you regret? And he's a curmudgeon. My dad is an avid gardener, even today at age 94. He has a good crop of tomatoes and okra and all kinds of other things in his garden. And every day he spends time in his garden. And so initially he said, I'm not going to answer you. I don't have an answer for you. I don't want to answer you, is what he said. And I thought to myself, personally, looking at my own life, if I look back at the choices that I made in the past, what did I regret? But I recognize that that wasn't the right question. And the question I asked my dad wasn't the right question. Because if you ask the question, what do you regret? Then it forces you to go into maybe this deeper, darker place inside of yourself, which may be a lot of sorrow, which may be a lot of sadness, which may be just a lot of complexity. So instead of asking my father, what does he regret? I asked him, if you don't make any choices today, what will you regret? And he said, in his curmudgeon way, in his sweet, beautiful way, he said, I'll regret not getting up to go outside to till my garden. I want to get up to go outside to till my garden. And I can get up to go outside to till my garden. And so that is what I'm going to do. And if I don't do that on any given day, I will regret not having done it. So the question today for all of you, and this episode is still focused around our Women's History Month series. I would ask you, in your career, where you are today, right now, this moment, what will you regret if you don't make a decision right now? And so I want to follow that through by saying, as a woman leader, as a woman, anywhere in your career, starting out as a woman, what do you second guess that will lead to your having regret down the road? So that's the question. So thank you for joining me. My name again is Margaret Spence. I'm the host of Inclusion Unscripted, where we are here every Friday at 2 p.m., except when I'm traveling. And we are here live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we ask bold questions around diversity, equity, inclusion, equality, thriving and belonging in the workplace. Because what I am doing every day is not building diversity and inclusion. It's not creating diversity and inclusion. I'm living diversity, inclusion, equity, equality, belonging, and thriving. That's what I'm living. So thank you for joining us. This is a hard subject. It's a tough subject to ask about regret. And here's the reason why I'm asking about regret. Earlier this week, I was in New Jersey, and I was flying back, and I was reading a great book as I was flying back. The book was about why we all need community. And the book describes the fact that since the pandemic, most people are living alone and they're living lonely. And even though the organization has said partial return to work, or maybe you've partial back in the office, or maybe your workforce is still fully hybrid, what we haven't addressed is the loneliness that occurs and the fact that a lot of people are second guessing and looking through the rear view mirror of their own life right now, and they are living in a place of regret. And so I wanted to bring this subject here, partially focused on for women, but primarily focused for anyone who hears this message. Regret is a lens that we have, and regret can put us into a place of distress. Because maybe we think we should have made a decision a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago that we didn't make. And because we didn't make that decision, it's affected where we are right now. And from a career standpoint, we want to make a decision going forward. And we realize that the forward decision was dependent on the decision that we should have made 50, 60 steps behind. And because we didn't make that decision, we didn't take that path, we are now living with regret. So I want to challenge you to look through the lens of what will you regret versus what you have regretted. What the decisions you made in the past that you will regret. Now I want to focus us on looking forward by saying, if we look forward, what will we regret about our career, about our life choices, about the decisions we make today? Because the decisions you make right now about your career are long-term. If, as a woman, you stay in a role that you're unhappy in, that you're not focused in, that you are unhappy in that role, will you regret that 5 years from now when you think, why did I stay in this role as long as I did? If you are unhappy with any situation in your current life and you make a decision to stay in that situation, will you look back and say, this is the point where I should have made a decision and I didn't make it? And everything that's happening right now is because I didn't make that decision. See, here's the thing that I feel. I feel that the pandemic has given us a level set. The pandemic has given us a level set as human beings, not just as diversity, inclusion, as women, as humans. The pandemic has given us a level set. And the level set is, if something were to happen to me today, what would I regret? If I don't make a choice right now, what would I regret? And so that brings us to self-doubt. I think oftentimes when women will reach out to me for coaching or for direction in their career, a lot of what they come with is, I should have done this here, but I didn't do it. And now I want to figure out how to move ahead, how to move forward. But the question, the underlying issue, the underlying nuance is self-doubt. We doubt our own empowerment. We doubt the ground we stand on. We don't feel that we've earned the right to be where we are. And we don't feel that we've earned the right to celebrate the success that we've had. And so instead of making decisions that we know if we don't make that decision today, we will regret it eventually, we sit back and we question and we double talk and we double speak and we talk ourselves out of opportunities to move ahead because we are doubting our importance. See, when you doubt your own importance, when you doubt the fact that you are here for a purpose, a mission, that your vision matters, that your position matters, that your happiness matters, then we put our own self behind and we allow others to take advantage of us. And our self-doubt, our procrastination sometimes, our voices in our head that tells us that we haven't earned the right to be in the room, causes us to second guess solid decisions that we should be making. And instead of making that solid decision, we instead fall back on self-doubt, and we doubt ourselves and we talk ourselves out of things that we should be doing, that we know we should be doing. And because we don't have necessarily the confidence to absorb what we need and what we want, we don't have the internal strength to ask for what we need and what we want. We allow self-doubt to creep in, and we allow the voices in our head to tell us that we're not ready, that we are not the right candidate, that we shouldn't make the decision we're making, that the boss was right. My manager was right when he said I wasn't ready. So when we don't ask the question effectively, what will I regret? And what will I regret if I don't make this move now? Then we allow self-doubt to drive the answer to that question. We allow self-doubt to come in and take over our being, our person, our future, our drive. And so I want to challenge you as you listen to this episode. I want to challenge you to really dive in to ask the question, the deep introspective question, what do I really want to do? Where do I really want to be? What do I really want starting now? See, regret is a rear view mirror lens. When we think about regret, we are looking through the rear view mirror. And we're attempting to go back and relive something that we cannot change. I can change nothing about yesterday. I can change nothing about what happened 6 years ago or 10 years ago. I can change nothing about that. But what I can do is look through the windshield and say, where am I going? Where am I moving towards? The question to ask inside of your career, because again, this episode is built around Women's History Month and women being empowered to navigate and take on their career, right? Us taking it on. There was a study that was released this week that said that women are exiting the workforce. I was watching CNBC and they were talking about it. I went on and I watched Bloomberg. They were talking about it. I went on to NBC and they were talking about it. And CNN had a segment on it where the issue is that executive women are making the decision to walk out the door and go do something else. That decision is being based on the fact that they don't want to regret not making that decision. See, the survey that was done didn't address the fact that women may be asking themselves, if I don't leave this organization right this second, if I don't walk out the door right now and go do what I really want to do, will I regret it in 5 years? And they are answering the question by saying, yes, I will regret it. So all of you who are doing talent leadership, who are trying to empower women, who are trying to build these pipelines for women to walk into and walk through, the question you haven't asked yourself is, what is going on in that woman's mind as I am trying to groom and empower her in our organization? What is going through her mind? And if you're a woman who's being asked to go into a leadership development program and to navigate that journey, the question that you should be asking yourself is, if I do this, or if I don't do this, will I regret it? And if I do this and I don't get what I want at the end of this road, will I have any regrets about having spent time doing this rather than doing what I want? See, as women leaders, as up-and-coming rising stars, we as women live in two places. We live in regret and we live in self-doubt. And in between, we manage to find our purpose and our vision. And in between, we manage to find that intestinal fortitude to do what we want. But oftentimes, because we are so, intellectual in our thought, because we are so working in our head, we think that we have to analyze and psychoanalyze and have an answer for everything. And it has to be canned, and it has to be put together, and it has to be perfect. And there has to be an A and a B and a C and a D and an E and an F before we can make a decision. And because we get wrapped up in the path, we don't ask ourselves even if this is something we want. We don't ask ourselves that first question. Do I really want this? And do I want this enough so that I won't regret this decision I'm making? We don't ask ourselves that question. We ask ourselves simply, should I take this job or not? Should I apply for this promotion? Should I take this vacation? The question is, if you don't do it and you look back through the rearview mirror, will you regret having not done it? And if you're looking through the windshield, what is the path that you're charting? So let's talk a little bit about self-doubt. I can tell you personally that I live with self-doubt. As much as I may appear overly confident and overly prepared, I doubt myself all the time. But what I've gotten used to doing for my own self is saying, why is this feeling coming up right now? I like when I do these episodes of Inclusion Unscripted to give you real episodes of my own life, not to come here to preach and have a bully pulpit and talk. No, I come here every week that I show up on these live events with Inclusion Unscripted. I come here to say to you, I live the same life that you might be living. I live with self-doubt. Let me tell you, when we launched Inclusion Learning Lab, I doubted the entire process of Inclusion Learning Lab. I had to say to myself, okay, in my core, I want to do this. At my core, I need to do this. At my core, this is what I'm going to do. But then I said, who's going to want this? Who's going to want this? I said, let me give you another little story, another little interesting story. When I wrote my third book, which is Leadership Self-Transformation, when I wrote this book, I was in the middle of getting divorced, and I was living through the wreckage of a divorce, literally the wreckage of a divorce, right? And I was writing this book in the wreckage of my divorce. And I was writing it from a lens of, how do I empower women who may be sitting where I am, but they're not sitting at this from a regret standpoint. They're sitting at this spot going, how do I move forward? What is my self-transformation that I need to create from this point forward? What is my renewal, my rebirth? So here's how self-doubt jumped into my mind. At the time, I was working with disability inclusion. I was trying to help disabled employees stay in the workforce. I was managing risk management and HR. And I was like, who am I to write a book for women? Who am I to write a book for women? Literally, as a woman, I asked myself, who am I to write a book for a woman? Who am I? So I wrote this book, hand wrote the book. This is an interesting story about self-doubt. I hand wrote the book, okay, put it in a drawer, and I took out my cell phone and I snapped a few pages of what I had written, and I sent it to my cousin Sharon. And I said, read this and tell me what you think. And like all good cousins, she didn't read my text message right away when I sent it to her on WhatsApp. She didn't read it right away. It took her a couple weeks to read it. And then when she read it, she said, wait, hold up. You wrote this? And I said, yeah, I wrote this, right? I think I actually sent it to her on Messenger, right? It wasn't WhatsApp. It was Messenger at the time, right? I sent it to her and I said, tell me, what do you think about this? And she said, Wait, what? And then I took some more screenshots of it and I sent it to her by email. And I said, read this 20 questions I want to ask women and tell me what you think. And so she read the 20 questions and she came back to me and she says, wait, is this a book? What is this? And I said, it's a book. I wrote it 5 years ago. And she said, 5 years ago, you wrote this? Where is it? I said, oh, it's in a drawer by the side of my bed. It's in the top drawer there. It's handwritten. I haven't even typed it. I just, sat down every time it rained. I live in Florida. Every time it rained, I would pull out the book and I'd write some more in the book. I wasn't typing it. I was handwriting it. And I was making these complete chapters handwritten. And she says, well, why haven't you published it? And I said, who am I to put out a book for women? And she says, well, aren't you a woman? And that was the funniest conversation I had had with someone, right? And it was good that it was a safe space with my cousin. And she says, but aren't you a woman? Why wouldn't you want to put out a book for women? I doubted my own existence as a woman. And so the book sat for 5 years. So imagine that. 5 years it sat because I didn't think, A, it was good enough, B, it was perfect enough, C, I wasn't the authority on it. There were lots of other people putting things out that I felt may have even been better. But then I found the courage to publish the book and publish my dream. So the point of this story, the point of what I've shared with you is simply this. If you don't ask yourself, what will I regret starting now? And you allow self-doubt to come in and take charge of you, then what ends up happening is the gift you've been given, the package of gifts that you've been given stays inside of you. And eventually it dies. And that becomes the biggest regret of life, is that the dream you had inside of you dies. And so I often ask women when I'm coaching them and when I'm working with them, and even when I'm working in corporate spaces doing D&I, I will see shadow behavior in women, primarily in women. I will see shadow behavior show up in the process of them building diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. There will be a shadow behavior that shows up. And I will ask a woman, when did you first learn that your voice wasn't important? Tell me the date when you first learned your voice wasn't important. And there will be tears. They will cry and boohoo. Or I will say to a woman, tell me when you were told that your message wasn't important. Tell me the first time you heard that your message wasn't important. And oftentimes that woman will go back to kindergarten or go back to the first day they walked into a classroom and a teacher told them that they weren't good enough. And then people reinforce that over and over. And because of that lens, self-doubt sets in. Because here's the thing, self-doubt is a seed that is planted, not when the self-doubt shows up. Self-doubt is planted way back in our psyche. It's planted way back there. And then we add water to it over and over and over and over again until it germinates and it becomes a full part of our process and it becomes a tree that's living in our life. See, self-doubt is like a little tiny cell that becomes a full-grown oak tree or pine tree, years and years and years of watering it. See, I remember when my children were younger. I have 2 sons. When my children were younger, I remember my older son going into 9th grade of high school. And when he walked into 9th grade, he came home off the bus the first day and he had his class schedule. And when he had his class schedule, he gave it to me and I said, what kind of schedule is this? It looks like you're in all the crap classes. Why aren't you in the classes that's going to motivate you to move forward? And he says, well, this is what I got. And I said, this is not what you're settling for. This is not what you're settling for. We're going to do this different. So I went to see his guidance counselor. And she said to me, well, this is the this is the non-college path curriculum that I've given him, because the likelihood of him going to college is nil to none. What? You've made that decision for my child in 9th grade? You've made the decision that my child is not worthy of going to college. But my child has a 3.8 GPA coming out of middle school. How did you get to this decision that my child wasn't worthy? Now, if I weren't the mother that I am, that seed would have been planted in my son, which would have germinated 4 years later. This is how this works. This is how it works. If you are leading a team of anyone, male, man, woman, you are leading a team, and you plant doubt in an individual's head, you plant the seeds of doubt so that they second guess their ability. If you as a leader have such insecurities about yourself that you have to plant the seed of doubt in another person, then you are allowing them to live with regret. That's how this works. See, regret is not some one-off thing that occurs out there in the ocean. It is directly planted by individuals. If you have a job opportunity and you apply for the job and you don't get it, and you are now doubting yourself because you didn't get it, and you don't feel that you were ready when you applied, but deep in your soul, you knew you were ready, self-doubt has now been planted inside of you. So the critical thing for women and for people of color is to not allow people to plant self-doubt in your system, not allow them to drop the seed of self-doubt on you. Don't let people plant self-doubt so that you end up regretting decisions you should have made because someone planted a seed of self-doubt in your life. Let me take that one step further. Because I entered this door, I'm going to take it one step further. If your family and friends and significant other and spouses and mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts, your people that make up your ecosystem, your best friend, if they are planting self-doubt in you, then you need to figure out a way to excavate them from your decision-making process. I remember when I started my business years ago, my very best friend at the time said to me, "What are you doing? Go get a job. Only stupid people start a business." That was the last day she was my friend. I literally cut her off. I cut her off in every way because she could never support me again as a friend. I could not have you in my circle, in my sphere, if what you are doing to me is putting me down to the point where I doubt my own empowerment. See, we as women, we as people of color, we need to learn to listen when people are planting self-doubt on us. As women, as Black women, as Hispanic women, as Asian women, as Native women, we have to listen for when self-doubt is being planted in us. We have to listen for that. We have to hear when self-doubt is being planted in our life. Because self-doubt is being planted for a couple reasons. The person is threatened by your existence. The person doesn't want to see you succeed. The person feels that if you succeed, they won't be successful. Or they see this shining light inside of you and they have made the decision to turn it off for you. See, and that breeds in the self-doubt, which ends up leading to the regret the rear view mirror regret. So here is my thought process around this. We have to ask ourselves, what do we really want? Right? We have to know what we really want. We have to hear how people describe us. We have to hear what they say about us. We have to hear the language they use about us. We have to be really clear. If you are a woman leader and you're looking to be a woman leader and people are describing you as she is the best person for this role, they don't have your self-interest at heart. Because what they're saying to you is, because you're the best, you shouldn't leave this role. If you ask for guidance and mentorship from a mentor, and the mentor leaves you doubting the vision that you have for your own life, get a new mentor. They're not in this for you. I've said often in other episodes of this podcast that I've done that there's two kinds of people in everyone's life. There are people who are holding space for your success, meaning they want to hear your vision. They want to hear your mission. They want to hear what you want. They want to hear your passion, purpose. They want to know where you want to go next. And there are people who want you to be successful. Those people want you to be successful on their terms, on their algorithms. They don't want you to be successful fully. They want you to be successful based on the rules that they have established for your success. And we as women of color need to hear how we are being verbalized by our people in our inner circle. That means our friends, our family, our parents, everyone. My dad is 94. He has no clue what I do for a living. Because every time I tell him what I do, he says, that doesn't sound like a job. But it is a job, Dad. This is what I do. I work in human resources. Okay. But through his 94-year-old lens, what I do is not important. It's not one of the big five that he's comfortable and knows. Because in his history, his 94-year history, it was lawyer, doctor, engineer, teacher, nurse. So you didn't do one of those five, you don't have a career, right? All these newfangled things are just too newfangled. Not that my dad is not a newfangled kind of person. It's just too newfangled for him, right? So we have to also recognize where the clock stopped for the people in our lives. So here's a point I want to make to all of you. The people in your inner circle should not have a clock that is plugged out. Let me say that again. The people in your inner circle should not have a clock that is plugged out. Let me fully describe that for you. Anyone in your life should not be unplugged from the reality of the world. They should not be unplugged from growing their career if that's what you want to do. They should not be unplugged from having vision and mission. They should not be unplugged from wanting to move forward. Because if we are out of balance in the groups that we hang out in, then self-doubt will creep in because our group, our associates, the people in our inner circle, in our closest circle, don't have the same dreams and wants that we have. They can remain friends, but they don't stay in the inner circle of growth. See, what I'm challenging all of you to do is to create 10x growth around your career. And if you have 10x growth around your career, you don't live in self-doubt. You say, what is this preparing me for? Where am I going next? What am I doing with the information that I'm gathering every day? And how is the information I'm gathering right now preparing me for the next move I want to make? We don't sit in our career as coasters where we just coast through and figure everything's going to be okay. The economic shift, the fact that AI technology is in place right now, the fact that things are shifting. I mean, ChatGPT is upending the world as we know it. It should give every single one of us pause around our career and our career trajectory. And the question we should ask is, what will I regret when AI takes over my job? It will happen. What will I regret if I don't get this certification? What will I regret if I don't go after this opportunity? What will I regret if I don't ask myself truly what I want? See, don't wait until the last seconds of your life to say, I should have done this. You know, I was telling a great friend of mine last night that I have a bucket list of places I want to go. I'm saving up my mileage to go there. And I'm going to go whether I have someone to go with me or not. There's going to come an afternoon where I'm going to get up and go. I'll give you a funny joke. I was sitting in the Newark airport on Wednesday evening. And as I sat in the Newark airport on Wednesday evening, the flight I was on coming back to Florida, in gate 81, there was a flight going to Frankfurt. Gate 82 was going to Vienna. Gate 83 was going to Paris. Gate 84 was going to Switzerland. Gate 85 was going to Italy. Gate 86 was going to Spain. And 87 was going to Portugal. And I said to my son, I was texting him from the airport, and I said, I think I'm going to ditch this trip back to Florida, and I'm going to pick one of these other options I have, go up to the gate and say, here's my credit card. Do you have a seat on your flight? I'm going. Right. And then I remembered that I didn't have my passport because, see, I figured I could buy clothes wherever I was going. I could purchase a set of clothes wherever I was going. It didn't matter because I had a credit card and I had access on the limit. I could just charge whatever I needed. Right. But I had a choice. I could make a different choice. So in order to not live in regret, we have to learn to make better choices. So I challenge you as women, kill the self-doubt, make it go away. Don't allow people to plant self-doubt in your life because it's a little teeny tiny seed that gets planted in our mind, and we give it water and fertilizer and sunshine and air, and it grows into this big tree inside of us. We have to ask ourselves every day, what will I regret if I don't do this? Don't worry about checking the boxes. Skip the perfection. Avoid feeling like you're an imposter. Ask yourself, if I don't do this, will I regret it? And if the answer is yes, go forward and do it. Don't sit back waiting for opportunity to come again. If you don't get the job you've applied for and the organization isn't making efforts to move you ahead, thank them, bless them, say great things about them, be grateful for the time you've been in their midst, be grateful in gratitude for what they have taught you, be grateful for all the skills you've gained working for them, be grateful for the leaders that impacted your life while you worked for them, but get the hell out of their offices and go on your way. Do not live with regret. Do not live with self-doubt. Do not allow others to plant the seed of self-doubt that germinates into your inaction. So my question for all of you who've joined me today, what will you regret? Thank you for joining me again on Inclusion Unscripted. And join us on Tuesday, where we're going to do our third Wednesday, Building Leadership Development Programs for Women, for diverse women into the C-suite. And join me every Friday here on LinkedIn at 2 p.m. Visit our website and sign up for our weekly newsletter and our webinars and our training programs. We have several new training programs coming forward at inclusionlearninglab.com. So join the Inclusion Learning Lab. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week live here on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. And you can catch us and download the episode on your favorite podcast app. So take care. Have a great weekend. See you next week.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings.
Take care, everyone. See you next week. And next week, we have a guest, and we're actually going to talk about talent acquisition and how that works within a diverse workplace. Take care. See you next week. Bye, everyone.